Hello and welcome. My name is Aaron Woodworth, and today we're going to be talking about nature deficit disorder. I'm going to start off by reading an excerpt from the introduction chapter of Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder by Richard Louv. One evening when my boys were younger, Matthew, then 10, looked at me from across the restaurant table and quite seriously said, "Dad, how come it was more fun when you were a kid?" I asked what he meant. "Well, you're always talking about your woods, tree houses, and how you used to ride that horse down near the swamp." At first I thought he was irritated with me. I had, in fact, been telling him what it was like to use string and pieces of liver to catch crawdads in a creek, something I'd be hard-pressed to find a child doing these days. Like many parents, I do tend to romanticize my own childhood, and I fear too readily discount my children's experiences of play and adventure. But my son was serious. He felt like he had missed out on something important. And he was right. Americans around my age, baby boomers or older, enjoyed a kind of free, natural play that seems, in an era of kids, pagers, instant messaging, and Nintendo, like a quaint artifact. Within the space of a few decades, the way children understand and experience nature has changed radically. The polarity of the relationship has reversed. Today, kids are aware of the global threats to the environment, but their physical contact, their intimacy with nature, it's fading. Nature deficit disorder was first coined by Richard Louv in that book that I just read the excerpt from, titled Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. It's not an official medical diagnosis, but maybe it should be. And instead it's just used to describe the cost of human alienation from nature. Over time, humans have urbanized, we've moved inside, the way we communicate and socialize has drastically changed over the years. And I would argue even more so now that COVID has happened and everything we did had to be translated to online. And now it seems like there's a lot of things that have just kind of stayed online. And so a lot of the way we communicate has just kind of been further and further pushed online. Kids have traded bikes for iPads in Fortnite. I know that kind of sounds like a silly exaggeration. However, children are more and more sedentary and more and more staying inside. And it's just adding to this epidemic of inactivity. We're creating environments for kids at school and home where they're using less and less of their senses, which is really, really huge, which is a huge problem. Because sensory play does so many things for physical development, mental development, emotional development. Engaging in multisensory play is so important for so many functions, and the fact that we're creating these environments where kids are really only using their vision and maybe their hearing, and they're just locked in on these screens, it's going to have huge complications, and it's already showing in the data. Okay, so who cares, right? Frankly, everyone should. This affects all of us, whether we are a child or not a child, whether we have children or we work with children. Everyone should care. Parents, teachers, and those who work in outdoor recreation spaces, your jobs are so important. You are actively trying to fight nature deficit disorder and get people to enjoy the outdoors and understand and come to love them, and more importantly, come to care about it. So I love this quote by Richard Louv. "We're creating an environment in which I believe, by definition, they're less alive. What parent wants their child to be less alive? And what teacher wants their student to be less alive?" As outdoor people, I think we can come to agree that we feel very alive in the outdoors. And so I think this quote perfectly explains that we're kind of depriving this group of people these experiences that we know are so valuable and so important, and we're just creating these environments where we're kind of stripping that from them. Okay, so why should I care? There has been a growing body of research on the connection between nature experience and human development. And so kids who have access to these green spaces, and anything can range from a green space to a park, to a huge open field and a mountain, because again, we all live in very different areas, but kids who have access to green spaces benefit from increased physical health, increased emotional health, stress reduction, increased confidence, self-efficacy, self-regulation, increased focus, all these awesome things. And on the flip side, nature deficit disorder contributes to diminished use of the senses, attention difficulties, higher rates of obesity in adults and children, higher rates of emotional illnesses, higher rates of physical illnesses, vitamin D deficiency. It weakens your ecological literacy, and it weakens stewardship of the natural world, which I'm going to get to in a minute, but I think that is like one of the biggest things. And also I want to point out that this doesn't just strictly apply to children. It also applies to adults as well, that the studies have shown that not only children, but adults too suffer from the same things if they are lacking nature, and they have the same benefits if they spend time in nature. If we want our kids to protect our environment, we have to give them the chance to understand why they want to. If they don't care about it, they're not going to do anything to protect it. And we're not really setting them up to care about it, because we're not allowing to have these experiences as to why they should care about it. And so that's why I think that maybe the number one reason why this is so important is because we need them. They are going to be our future, and we need them to understand and want to care about our environment, or we will not have a future. And, these studies, they're very early on in the research. There's been a ton of research since Richard wrote this book in 2005. However, he claims that he understands that there's still a lot more research to be done. But more research is necessary, but we know enough to act. So what can we do? We can make sure that we are following Leave No Trace and protect our natural areas so that future generations can come to enjoy them. We can also advocate for affordable outdoor education programs. Maybe you can use your own services, maybe volunteer to lead a community hike. You can support programs like Wilderness Inquiry, which their mission is to make sure there's equitable outdoor programs available to everyone. You can find new ways to connect with nature and connect others with nature. There's a movement called Family Nature Clubs, and so you can actually sign up to get funding for your family nature clubs, which is really awesome. If you have your own children, lead by example, take them to the outdoors, show them why you care and why you love it so much. If you teach children, try to incorporate the natural environment whenever possible and try to teach that stewardship to them. I love this quote from Rachel Carson. A child's positive connection to nature depends on two things: special places and special people. I implore you to go out and make sure that we protect those special places, and I implore you to go out and be those special people.